Hello and welcome to The Print. I'm Vidhi Bhutra and this is Global Pulse, where we take a look at how and what the world is reporting on India. The Cockroach Janata Party's protest ended on Saturday, but it is still dominating the headlines. The big question now isn't how it ended, it's what happens next. The Financial Times is asking exactly that. Writing for the newspaper, Michael Stott and Jyotsna Singh report that the CJP movement could now be inspiring a wave of smaller protests by disgruntled citizens across the country. Jantar Mantar may already be getting a makeover. Graffiti has been painted over, posters have come down, but the Financial Times says the mark made by the student-led movement on the nation's politics will be much harder to remove. And perhaps that is the clearest sign of what is happening already. It reports that a newly launched E20 Janata Party, named after the government's 20% ethanol blended fuel, gained 34,000 followers on X within a day of launching on Sunday, and now it has reached to 44,000 followers. It's positioning itself as a platform for people unhappy with the nationwide rollout of E20 fuel, which critics say could increase fuel consumption and damage older vehicles. Its demands are familiar too. It wants 100% petrol to remain available at all fuel stations, and it's demanding Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari's resignation. Pratap Bhanu Mehta tells the Financial Times that the CJP has created a new template for making demands of the Indian state. The Financial Times also notes that critics have pointed to Gadkari's sons operating a family business that produces ethanol. But Gadkari has denied any conflict of interest, saying his sons account for less than 0.5% of India's ethanol market. And according to the Financial Times, political analyst Tehsil Poonawalla has now called for a car march to Gadkari's residence on Friday. Separately, Delhi taxi drivers have announced a march to Parliament on August 4 over the fuel policy. Quoting CJP spokesperson Saurav Das, the Financial Times writes, I think it would be better for the government for the next 3 years before the next general election to start listening to people. Over in The Guardian, Mukul Kesavan looks back at why CJP protests succeeded when many others didn't. Kesavan says he first visited Jantar Mantar on June 6, the day Abhijit Deepke launched the sit-in. He writes, like other political tourists, I visited Jantar Mantar on 6 June out of curiosity. On that inaugural day, it was modestly crowded and not that different from the dozen of demos I have attended over the last 50 years. But when he returned on 20th July, everything had changed. He writes, Jantar Mantar was unrecognizable. According to Kesavan, the government's first big miscalculation came when Sonam Wangchuk was forcibly shifted to hospital after his 21-day hunger strike. The calculation was that his absence would diffuse the tension and demoralize the protesters. That didn't happen, he writes. Then came another mistake. The government had underestimated the size of the crowd that poured in by bus, train and car from Delhi and beyond, Kesavan writes. And then came the police crackdown. Tear gas, batons. But instead of ending the protest, Kesavan argues it amplified it. He writes, in the hands of young digital natives whose phone cameras were extensions of themselves, it became a gush of online content that brought the violent drama of this confrontation into every home. Kesavan also makes another point. Unlike some earlier protests, he says this one couldn't easily be dismissed through familiar political narratives. He writes, there were Muslims among them, but this was a protest about the corruption of competitive examinations, an issue that concerns every middle-class family in India. And because of that, he argues, it couldn't be tarred as an anti-national conspiracy in the way previous protests had been. Moving on to Assam now. Writing for the BBC, Dilip Kumar Sharma and Abhishek Dey report on the devastating floods that have killed at least 68 people and displaced more than 600,000. They begin with the story of Salin Patro from Jorhat district. When Salin Patro watched the rain on 19 July from her home in Jorhat district in the northeast Indian state of Assam, she didn't know that her life was about to change, they write. Within minutes, floodwaters swept away her home. Patro tells the BBC, we had a television, a cupboard and a sofa. Nothing was left. We couldn't even save a glass to drink water from. Assam sees floods almost every year, but Patro says this year felt different. Citing experts, the BBC reports that upstream deforestation, aging embankments and heavier rainfall driven by climate change have made flooding steadily worse. And according to the BBC, Assam Minister Piyush Hazarika has described these as the state's worst floods in 6 decades. Finally, the New York Times looks at something many people across Asia are feeling every day: the rising price of street food. Writing for the New York Times, Muktita Suhartano, Yang Zhuang, Max Kim, and Suhashini Raj report that the renewed US Iran conflict has hit Asian economies particularly hard because of their dependence on West Asian energy. They begin in Lucknow. Behind the counter of Yadav Milk Dairy, owner Shubham Yadav tells the New York Times he is barely profiting from selling samosas. His LPG cylinder, he says, now costs rupees 3,600, nearly double what he paid earlier. Because India imports around 60% of its LPG, much of it through the Strait of Hormuz, the conflict has sharply raised costs. The New York Times reports Mr. Yadav said he could not double his prices to match the surging cost of gas, so he had increased the price of each samosa by about 1 cent. The story isn't limited to India. The New York Times reports that restaurant owners in South Korea, Thailand, and Indonesia are also raising prices as energy costs ripple across Asia. In Seoul, restaurants serving affordable noodle dishes are becoming more expensive. In Bangkok, sellers of green papaya salad say costs have jumped by at least 30%. In Jakarta, Rida, who sells gado gado, tells the New York Times, "If I didn't increase the price, I couldn't survive." So while one protest may have ended in India, its political aftershocks are still unfolding. And halfway across Asia, another crisis is quietly finding its way onto people's plates. That's your Global Pulse for today. Thanks for watching.